can be very, very creative in business. And coming off of what you just said, it was something that always stuck with me. And as I think about everything that I have done in business, so much of it, I've always gone back to that moment of inspiration of my father. Like, how can I think about this creatively versus what is the proper way to do it or the rote way to do it as a being that floats around and looks for a home. And so those feelings that you get hit with inspiration. It comes and it's saying, okay, are you going to be my home? And it will stay for some amount of time, and we can choose to say, okay, I'm going to take that inspiration and run with it, or not, and then the inspiration will find itself another home. But I realized that my purpose on earth is actually to help other people be the best versions of themselves.
Your ego can outsmart your intuition. I mean, one of the things I learned from Byron Reese is that the second most neurons in your body are in your stomach. You do think with your whole body, it's not just with your brain. I believe our brains receive consciousness.
If enough people can start to just do that, just show up, not be angry, and show love in places they didn't before, I do think we will have a ripple. We have the potential for there to be a ripple effect that will dominate the hate and anger that we are seeing.
Well, if 100% of humanity did that, there would be no problem. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Love Conquers Fear podcast. I've really been diving into a book recently that Jeff Birmingham turned me on to. I mentioned his book on this podcast. I'm going to be recording with him in a future episode. We actually just set up a ski trip together in Park City, and we're going to be doing it from up there. So the podcast will be on the road when that happens. His book is called The Last Book Written by a Human, and I cannot recommend it more highly. But it's in the final part of his book where he talks about the books that have moved him the most. And the book that he says was his absolute favorite is called The Creative Act. It's by Rubin. And I highly recommend that one on Audible. I'm about halfway through with it at this point. And it is just so beautifully read and so wise. I mean, it really makes you think of the Tao Te Ching. I know that Rick Rubin has studied that. He came out with an amazing website recently, which rewrote the Tao Te Ching for the moment of vibe coding, which is quite fun. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And I also watched a recent 60 Minutes episode of Rick Rubin as well, in terms of how he helps people realize their greatest accomplishments with their music. But it's a great read for anybody that's an aspiring creative. And Rick Rubin would tell you that creativity is not limited to anything. I was on JP Newman's business or podcast called Investing on Purpose. And JP Newman, when we're just talking about entrepreneurship, he was trying to convince me, Brett, you're an artist, you know, business people are also artists and you're creating something from scratch. And it felt a little bit awkward at the time when JP was saying that, but I do think business can be an art. You choose the intentionality you want with business. You choose whether or not to be a conscious capitalist. You choose whether or not to be a public benefit corporation. You choose the type of operating system that you want to operate the company with, whether that's your metrics or your culture, bringing out the best in people. And so I really embrace what JP Newman said. And I am ultimately writing, my third book right now. I came out with The Lattice, my second book, my science fiction novella. But my third book, Love Conquers Fear, Humanity, AI, and the Age of Abundance for All, really Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, is helping me get even more centered with that as I enter the home stretch of completing that book. So definitely shout out to Rick Rubin, shout out to JP Newman, and tune into The Creative Act. It is a fantastic read. And thank you again to Jeff Birmingham. His book, The Last Book a Human Will Ever Write, is really exceptional. I highly, highly recommend you read that. And it has a lot of synchronicity with what I'm doing with Love Conquers Fear, and that'll be a great episode when that comes out. So today, I'm really excited to welcome Amos Schwartzfarb to the podcast. And Amos, welcome. Yeah,
thanks for having me here.
Yeah, good to have you here. You and I have known each other for a while from the Techstars days. And you were the CEO of Techstars. So why don't we start there? Like Techstars is one of the most amazing incubators here in
Hey,
Austin.
hey, may I derail
Yes,
us slightly?
please. Yeah,
Something you said like nailed me right in my heart in the
good,
best way possible,
awesome.
which is when I was in high school, getting ready to go to college and thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. I had been thinking always that I would go into something creative. And my father, who graduated college when I was 6, came from a family who didn't go to college. He looked at me, he said, "You can be very, very creative in business."
Mm.
And coming off of what you just said, it was something that always stuck with me. And as I think about everything that I have done in business, so much of it, I've always gone back to that moment of inspiration of my father. Like, how can I think
Yeah,
about this creatively versus what what is the proper way to do it or the rote way to do it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome, and I love that Rick Rubin was saying, look, every human being can be creative. There's these so-called creatives, and people think of them as like a director of a movie, or a band member or something, or an artist, that paints. And there are so many creative acts. And I
Yeah.
love how Rick Rubin's really opening the tent to them all,
Yeah.
because there sometimes is a little bit of this repulsion of like, oh, you're a business person, you're not really a creative.
Which is so untrue. I think being an entrepreneur by default, you have to be creative. You have to
That's right.
think in a way that other people have never thought before,
Right.
and be bold enough to then take that leap. I think that's one of the things that I love about things that Rick Rubin has said and what my father said. Is that is the act of creating is not just saying I'm going to take paint and write it on an easel on a canvas, but I'm going to take my brain and I'm going to say, what does this world look like, and how do I create something new from it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So cool. Yeah, I mean, I really embraced that after JP said that, and it really stuck with me. But Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act,
Yeah,
is nailing it home.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And something that it is true that if you look at the creative act as you're plugging into source, as he would say in that book,
yeah,
or getting messages from the
yeah, yeah,
universe. I mean, I get those all the time. I get downloads probably daily,
yeah,
and when you get them, it's a real gift
yeah,
from the universe, and you've got to like start writing, pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah.
To get
Have you read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
No, I haven't.
I think that
That's
it
good.
might resonate for, yeah. There's a lot of things about the book that are really neat, but there's one thing that she says early on, and I don't do a lot of book on tape. I usually like to read, but this one someone recommended that I listen to it, and kind of
Yeah,
Rick Rubin's book is a listen book,
yeah.
but she talks about inspiration as a being
Hmm.
that floats around and looks for a home. And so those feelings that you get hit with inspiration.
Hmm.
It comes and it's saying, okay, are you going to be my home? And it will stay for some amount of time. And we can choose to say, okay, I'm going to take that inspiration and run with it,
Hmm.
or not. And then the inspiration will find itself another home. And she actually tells this story in the book,
Hmm.
which is crazy, how she had a moment like that where inspiration hit her and she started to write this book, but there are lots of things in the way and she never finished it. And a few years later, she was on a panel with one of her favorite authors, and they had never met in person before. They'd never had a conversation before, and she was in awe of this person. I don't remember who the other author was. And they were talking after the panel, and and Elizabeth Gilbert said to her, what are you working on next? And she went and described the book almost word for word that she had started, that she had hit, and then lost inspiration for. So
Wow.
I don't know, it was just it was a
Did she
wild.
finish it?
The other woman is who ended up finishing
Oh,
it. She
who
said it was
finished
the
it?
inspiration left
Wow.
me and it went to this
Oh
person.
my
And yeah,
gosh. Okay,
yeah,
now I get it.
yeah, yeah.
Have you ever read The War of Art?
I haven't. I have it sitting at home and I have not. Yeah,
So this
yeah,
is another similar book. It's
yeah.
by Stephen Pressfield,
Uh-huh.
who it took until his 50s for him to become a famous author. He wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance and a
Uh-huh.
bunch of other
Yeah,
amazing breakout
yeah,
books. But he really credits it to listening to the muses. He describes in a very spiritual fashion where when he prayed to the muses to show up, that they would show up,
yeah,
and he would basically be channeling his works to
yeah.
them.
That's neat. All right,
Yeah.
I'll check out. I think about that a lot, and the Elizabeth Gilbert's book had something to do with this, but you've probably felt this before, where inspiration hits. And what I've tried based on that concept now, when I get hit with inspiration now, I try really hard to say, okay, what's around that I can push to the side,
Mhm.
because I don't know how long this moment's going to stay and how far can I take this moment of inspiration to
Mhm.
whatever it might be. And sometimes that's a really long time.
Right.
Yeah.
That that is a key lesson from Rick Rubin's book, The Creative.
Is it?
Yes. That's a huge part of it. It's like when you get that gift from the universe, make time and like really listen.
Stop and go.
And start writing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, start doing whatever.
I love
to
something
do.
else you just said too, that he wrote his first book in his 50s, and I think like we're in such a different generation now. Like life and time has changed the way that it is acceptable for you or myself to say, hey, I'm in my 50s and it's okay if I want to stop and look around and say, it's time to do something completely different.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the thought of it, I don't know how you feel about this, but the thought of what used to maybe be considered a midlife crisis and it would go down this path of whatever is really just people saying, I want to be re-inspired and allowing themselves the vulnerability and the freedom to go be re-inspired, like whether you're 50 or 60 or whatever, like there's no reason we can't do really amazing things at any point in our life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, time itself time itself is an illusion. That's a whole different thing. I've recommended The Order of Time on this podcast before by Carlo Rovelli. Amazing book, a science book, but ends kind of very spiritually. But it's just meant to be a pure science book about the illusion of time. But the you know, we're in a time right now with exponentially accelerating technologies of AI, quantum computing, robotics, brain-computer interfaces, where 50 may feel like the new 20, 50 years from now. I mean, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now. I mean, we're in such an exponential curve that the only way I'm able to make sense of it is, I think a week of tech progress right now is kind of like a year of tech progress 10 years ago. I mean, it's just dizzying in terms of what's happening. And that includes in biotech. It's just incredible, like what type of breakthroughs are happening. I actually just joined the advisory board of the Dell Medical School, and I didn't realize this. The reason I joined was for what's going to be the Dell Teaching Hospital, and it's actually the largest project they've done in the entire history of UT Austin.
Oh, wow.
Over 130 years. And they're going to have state-of-the-art robotics, state-of-the-art AI, state-of-the-art sensors from the very beginning. So it's a real honor to be involved in this, but we're in such a incredible exponential curve that, like, I think a lot of it is like, how well do you take care of yourself? And I'm in better shape at age 53 now than I was at age 40. And part of it's vegetarian diet, part of it's like my daily workout, including lots of walking. And, anybody can have that type of lifestyle. Like sometimes people say, well, that's because you have money or whatever. And I'm like, some of the healthiest people I know don't have a lot of money, and some of the wealthiest people I know don't have a lot of health. I mean, they drink a lot, or they get very overweight, et cetera. So, it really is, age is just a construct. It really is how you feel.
Perspective and effort. I fully agree. I think that, and I don't think it has to start early. You can start when you're 50 and get yourself to a
Totally.
I'll use my parents as another example. My mom and dad never, my mom was a big smoker. My dad never did anything until they hit around 50. Now my mom is 82, still runs 2 to 3 miles every other day. My dad's still lifting weights, or not still, started. I mean, he's like, has become like a fit person later in life. Later in life by their standards.
It's amazing how fast your body will heal if you nourish it. And that's true, by the way, about your mind too. Whether you do meditation or any number of things to center yourself.
I'm fascinated about something you said about the Children's Hospital, and I'm going to overshare maybe a little bit, but
just to correct you, it's the Dell Medical School.
I'm sorry, thank you. The Dell Medical School, thank you.
Which is at UT Austin.
The Dell Medical School at UT. Thank you.
Dell Children's Hospital is amazing in its own right. It is total state of the art.
Dell Medical Center at UT.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with this tumor. I mentioned this to you before, and I'm having it actually removed pretty soon. But 4 years ago, it came out of nowhere.
It's a tumor in your brain.
It's a tumor, right outside my brain on the nerves that are in here. And at first, it was not a big deal, and I lost a little bit of hearing, but very quickly, I lost all my hearing. So I'm deaf in my right ear.
Oh, wow.
And after having fantastic hearing my whole life. I've got perfect hearing in my left ear.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk to the doctors, and I have to go every 6 to 12 months to get MRIs, which
Yeah.
is why now I know it's growing too much and I have to do some other things. They are convinced that I will never hear again. And I feel like this may be like thematically to Love Conquers Fear.
Mm-hmm.
I am convinced otherwise.
Right.
For exactly what you just said.
I would bet on you.
100%.
And this, you need to watch episode 3 with Jason Karp, because he was told that he was going to be completely blind in both eyes. And in his case, he had divine inspiration to change his diet. And that was the path. He had a message, download, if you will, that told him to embrace what he was being told. And he cured his own blindness. And the eye doctors would not believe it. They were like, well, we must have misdiagnosed.
Yeah, I will watch this literally when I go home.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced they're wrong, because science will catch up and excel past anything we know today.
Yeah.
Which actually doesn't give me a lot of faith in my doctors, but they know what they're doing
Right.
for the past.
Yeah. Well, at least you're getting it in 2025. That's the best year you could get it if you're going to get it.
That's right. Yeah.
It's better than 2015 or
That's right.
2005, et cetera. Yeah. So back to Techstars. I love that diversion though, because it's so true. And hopefully anybody listening to this or watching this can realize you can be creative. Doesn't matter your age either.
Yeah.
But you can be creative at whatever you do. You can embrace creativity.
Yeah.
So Techstars.
Oh yeah.
So that's how we originally met.
Yeah.
And I had Morgan Linton on episode 10 of this podcast.
I did see that. Yes.
He's fantastic. I had so many great conversations with him and Dana. They live in Incline Village in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we had such a great time.
Yeah. Did you go to there, or did they come here?
I did. I went there, and
I was going to say, because it did look different than this. Yeah.
Yeah, we did lots of great hikes. We actually recorded that in Reno.
Okay.
Because it was a nearby podcast studio. But we just had so many deep conversations, and he, real shout out to Morgan, because he leveled me up with AI powered engineering. So really leveled me up with Cursor, Warp, of course, GitHub, Claude Code. And I felt like a kid again, because I've been programming since I was 7. I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm playing.
Yeah, you have gone in and played. Yeah.
Yes, I was creating applications, and it's amazing. Like once you actually experience a true AI agent, it really is transformative. It's like you'll never forget the first time you experience it. And we talked about on that episode that a very easy way for people to experience it is go to Perplexity, download the Comet web browser, and just use the agent mode and watch it take over your browser. That alone is like pretty
amazing. Yeah. I actually had a similar-ish experience, which is I took one of the books that I wrote, Levers, and I've started to and got most of the way through creating, like, how do I turn this into something that's interactive, and getting to use, I use Lovable, but one of the platforms to do that, and just see how easy, not just easy it is, but how it can come to life in such a way that would have taken a ridiculous amount of time, a ridiculous amount of money, even just a couple of years ago. Although I do think, and I'm curious what your thought is on this, I do think there's still a skill set that a human has to have in the organization of something complex that I think it will be a while before computers, if ever, can do that.
Well, I'm asked a lot, what should my kids study, as if I'm going to be some expert on that.
Yeah.
And my answer to them is always whatever you think they're most passionate about. And then just let things happen the way they're meant to unfold. Like, don't try to game this. And now it's an act of love to try to help guide your child. I'm not saying that it's not.
Yeah.
But only to a point. Like if your child is meant to code, like my mom introduced me to it at age 7, and she didn't have to push me at all. Like, I just wanted to do it nonstop.
Yeah.
That was what I was meant to do. I know that I was born for this purpose, to create a better world with technology. So that was my divine calling. And one thing that we've done with our children is expose them to lots of different things. And once we see what it is that they want to do, allow them to do that without prejudice. which is what my mom did.
Yeah.
And as a result, they've accomplished a lot at very young ages, but they've accomplished things that they wanted to do. You know, we didn't say like, hey, here's a goal, like, go out there and get it. So yeah, I mean, with raising children today, it really is listening to them and realizing they were born for a reason.
Yeah.
And trying to find that out.
Yeah. Helping guide them there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about Techstars.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like we're good, like dodging Techstars or something.
no,
I know that.
yeah.
I know that we're not.
Yeah.
But Techstars was a big force here in Austin, and
Yeah.
you really put a lot of heart and soul.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. So it was originally brought to Austin by Jason Seitz, who I think you know Jason.
I do.
Yeah.
I was involved actually in the very first year. I can't remember if I reached out to him or he reached out to me. It really doesn't matter. But I loved what he was doing, and I wrote about it the year it launched on my blog, Lucky Seven, to really celebrate, like, hey, this is a big Austin moment that Techstars has come here, a big national incubator.
Yeah. That was my exposure to him too before it launched. I think Rob Taylor introduced Jason and me before it launched, and I was like, yeah, it sounds really. I had never heard of it before. I was like, it sounds really cool. I like helping other people, and I invested in that first fund as well. And that was my introduction to it. And I remember that first year when I was a mentor, and one of the rules was only choose one company to work with. And I had just exited out of Black Locusts. I was really I was spending time, giving back and spending time on myself. And I think I had one of my kids at that point. And I ended up mentoring like 8 of the companies, and just fell in love.
That's
with
different.
It was I had the time, and I had the time.
Like, I'm going to do 800% greater.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like intentional, and I think maybe like he said one, and I didn't really hear it, but later on he was like, yeah, we kind of told you to do one, you did 8. He actually told me this story back 3 years later when he offered me or asked me to take the role from him.
Okay.
So
he remembered that.
Yeah, he remembered that.
This guy's driven.
Yeah. And we have kind of, I don't remember that, but we also have a different recollection of the moment he asked me to take the role from him. And so I had mentored for a couple of years, and at the same time I had started a company called Joust in the social gaming space. And of all the things I've done, it's the one thing that unfortunately was not successful. And Jason personally had invested in it. And so I took Jason out for a drink one day, and I said, hey man, I'm really sorry, but I'm leaving. Like, I don't see a path for this. The CEO is probably going to keep trying, but like, I don't see a path, and I'm going to go pursue something else.
Right.
And he said, well, it's funny because I wasn't sure how to ask you this, but I would actually like for you to take my job.
Right.
Okay.
You're like, oh
yeah. And then
gratuitous meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and then a couple of months later, I ended up joining it was the managing director of Techstars in Austin, and I ran it from the summer of 2015, and my last program ended, I'm going to get this a little wrong, we're in 25, 24. My last program was the fall of 23, and I officially left Techstars in the winter of 24.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I ran it for 8.5 years and did 10 programs in 8.5 years.
Yeah. What are some of your biggest lessons learned at Techstars? I mean, you saw so many great companies come through.
So many. I think some of my biggest lessons, I can talk on the business side, I can talk on the human side, and
both. Yeah.
Yeah. The human side are the ones that I get more excited about. I think on the human side, I say this as a positive statement, not a negative statement, but it's hard to not come off with a little negative sentiment, which is people only change when they want to change. And so my learning through that is to try to recognize when someone was trying to evolve versus regardless of what I thought was the right thing, didn't really matter.
Right.
Were they trying to evolve? And then how can I help them, kind of like what you were saying with your kids, like how can I help them realize the thing that they're trying to evolve to?
Right.
And I learned that lesson the hard way in the first couple of years when I was like, well, you're coming to me so I can tell you how to do something. And not that I was very prescriptive, because I'm not very prescriptive by nature, but then I would see people running into the same wall over and over and not listening to not just me, but all of the mentors around. So that was one lesson, was people are only ready to change when they're actually ready to change.
Yep. God, that is so true. And I've almost destroyed friendships in the past because of that, because like I see something and I really wanted to help them. I really wanted, it to change, because I could see the train wreck about to occur. But sometimes you really, to be a good friend, you have to be there for them when they do hit the wall, and not be so dogmatic trying to get them to not hit the wall. And it's painful to see that.
Yeah. I've been on the other side of that, and
Mhm.
it's painful when the person is not there when they should be too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
I'm always there when they need me.
yeah.
I can definitely say that as a friend. Like, if I get the call, I'm there for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's an amazing trait. Yeah. I like to think that I am too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you are.
I think I am. If I'm not, it's unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
So that was one. I think another thing is a lesson that I learned, which is a lesson that I'm now I'm getting to put into practice on a regular basis, which is I realize, and it took me a couple years out of Techstars to be able to get the courage to say this to myself, much
Mhm.
less out loud here or anywhere for that matter. But I realized that my purpose on earth is actually to help other people be the best versions of themselves,
Mhm.
which has nothing to do with me.
That's beautiful, though.
It was thank you. I remember where I was in the moment when it was just, it flushed over me, and like, it's like I always knew it was there, but I articulated it for the first time. I'm like, I'm not here for me. I'm here for a lot of other people.
Wow.
How do I bring myself to that? That's probably the biggest lesson I
I mean,
learned.
in spirituality, that would be called selfless service. That's the highest order, um, form of giving.
Yeah.
That's to be of service to others, to try to manifest love.
Yeah. Thank you. Even saying thank you. It's saying it out loud. I still like, I'm squishy with the comfort of it.
Yeah.
Feels very, I don't know. It feels like, how do I have the courage to say that? But
Yeah.
that is how I feel. And
Can you tell me the moment? I mean,
yeah.
can-
I was, I can. So I was sitting in at my home office. Is also, it doubles as a music studio, and I have this chair that I sit in, and I play guitar often. And I was contemplating this combination of like happiness and sadness at the same time, thinking about the work that I was doing. And I had just come out of having surgery on my ACL,
Mhm.
on my knee, and I'm very, very active. I don't know if you know this about me, but I've been riding bikes and racing bikes. I don't race anymore, but like for 25 to almost 30 years,
Mhm.
and I couldn't do anything. I was just sitting there and thinking about, who I was, and really what I was contemplating was how happy I was, and how in the moment that I was in, I probably shouldn't be as happy as I actually was.
Mhm.
It's like, why am I so happy? And I realized, I looked around, I'm like, because everything that I'm doing is I am helping other people achieve the things that they want, and it had
Mhm.
nothing to do with me. And I was sitting there, and like, I had like, the lights were dimmed, and when I'm playing guitar, I have a couple of different, like, I have this light that lights up like stars on the ceiling, and then I have these other lights that slowly flash colors, and it's, to get me into like a more musically creative mood. But I wasn't doing that. I was actually thinking about work, and I was just sitting there, and like, I wasn't meditating, and I wasn't thinking about meditating, but I was almost in that sort of a state.
Mhm.
And it just was like, I wasn't trying to find what my purpose was, but it just like came to me. It's like, hey, dude, this is why you're here.
Right.
Like, this is why you're so happy, because you are doing the things you love. Like, go own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my interpretation of that, because I've become much more spiritual over the years, is that your soul was telling you, and that's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Because when you know you're in alignment with the purpose that you were born for, it gives you boundless energy,
Does.
and it is the highest form of service. I mean, it really is the highest form of practicing love, is to be of selfless service to others.
Yeah. In fact, I might get this a little bit wrong, but I think it was around that time that I reached out to you, because I was like, it was just,
Wow.
I don't know that anyone else felt it, but like, here's like some experiences that I had at that time, which uh, I would like go to the supermarket. It was all around the same bubble, and everyone in the supermarket, like, it didn't matter. Like, people would just come up and just start talking to
Yeah.
me about nothing, and I was there, and it was so, so cool.
So cool.
And like, life has ups and downs. I've had actually like some lows since then, and some more highs and some more lows. Kind of like finding the vision statement for your company. If we, reel it back to the business side of things, it's almost like the same thing. Like, it has given me this, like, in any moment, like, am I getting guide? Am I doing, like, what am I doing? Am I guided towards that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it gets,
Well,
yeah.
you have amazing energy, and And I've always seen that in you.
Like,
And when you reached out to me about Love Conquers Fear, I knew it was like a immediate yes. I mean, you wrote a very passionate letter to me. I don't know if you.
I don't remember what I wrote.
It was beautiful. I mean, it
Oh.
was all about the alignment with your purpose. And so we're going to delve.
Yeah, I don't remember what I wrote, and I think it was kind of I can't remember if it was here or like before when we were talking before, if we were talking about it, but I have started to believe very much in like the universe tells you, and if when you're listening for it, pay attention.
Yes.
And I remember reaching out to you. It was one of those moments where I had that like one moment of hesitation, like, should I? And I'm like, no, I'm having this moment of inspiration to reach out to Brett for a reason. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like we've been waiting years to become
Yeah.
closer. Like here's a great opportunity for us to hang out. Yeah.
And how long did it take me to say yes? I think
It was.
said
I
yes.
think it was like I was shocked at how fast you responded. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, because I also really listen to that energy and those signs, and it's very Tao Te Ching. It's very Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
It's very Celestine Prophecy. If you've ever read that book, that's an amazing
long time
book.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That people will show up for you, and your purpose at the right time. And you have to pay attention to that. And sometimes the answer can be literally right in front of you. So I was really delighted when, I mean, I immediately like lit up when you reached out.
Thanks.
It was amazing. And I get a lot of love for what I'm doing now, which feels great. But I'm doing it because I really want humanity to have this heart shift. You know, I can, one thing that I can claim to be good at, I'm not good at many things, but I am good at seeing the future when it comes to technology. I've had that ability since I was a little kid. I mean, I was back when I was 10, 11 years old, and in elementary school, I would be telling teachers, you don't realize how the world's going to change, technology is going to make you so much better at your job. It's all the stuff that you're doing that's so manual. You're going to be able to automate that. It's going to let you be more creative. You're going to be able to spend more time with your students, and all of these things I was trying to convince them of.
Did you ever doubt yourself?
What's that?
Did you ever doubt yourself through those periods? And I
sure.
asked you that, I'm projecting, because I have doubted myself in those.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was picked on horrendously as a child. My mom never doubted me. I doubted myself at various times, but whenever I sat back down in front of the computer, I started those doubts started to melt away, because I knew that I was in the flow. I knew I was doing what it was meant to do. But growing up in Texas, I'm born and raised in Austin. I mean, I can tell you that people would say in front of my mom, where I could hear, they would say, "You're ruining him. He doesn't know how to do anything but work on the computer. He doesn't play football. He doesn't do this or that." My third grade teacher actually took my mom aside and tried to have an intervention with her and said, "Your son's going to be a loser. All he does in class is talk about computers. He doesn't do anything else." And my mom didn't tell me that story until I was in my 20s.
I'm so glad she didn't tell you. Oh my.
Well, if she had, she would have told me what she did, which is she turned beet red, and she was so angry that she said you could have fried an egg on her head. And she told me she didn't tell me that story until I was in my 20s and already very financially successful, just because she didn't want it to dissuade me. But honestly, I don't think anything could have dissuaded me with the love that my mom gave me. But yeah, it was a weird place to be, because I had such conviction that I was right about where the future was going to go, but all the forces around me, with the exception of a handful of friends and my mom and my dad to a large extent, were pretty much telling me that I was going to be a loser. But I want you to know, and I really mean this, if anybody's watching this that happens to know me from back then, I have zero hatred in my heart for anybody. I have no need for anybody I've forgiven any of that. I've completely healed from all that. And I'm not doing what I've been doing with entrepreneurship because I have some chip on my shoulder that I'm trying to get back at them or whatever. Like I've completely healed from that. And part of that was psychedelic journeys, but part of that was just deep inner work. I've been studying Vedanta for well over 10 years now. That's an ancient Indian philosophy about how to gain mastery over your own mind. Um, and I just don't have this type of nature where I want to get back at people. Like I just,
Yeah.
I try to see the good in
Yeah.
everybody. And we were all kids back then. And one of the things I learned about humanity during that time is that if you go in this different direction from everybody else, there is this aspect where it's like, oh no, they're going away from the tribe, like they're going to somehow destroy themselves.
Yeah.
And I wear this ring every day. This is a ring that my mom gave me. I don't know if you know, but I've lost both my parents. I lost my
I didn't
mom
know that.
14 years ago and my dad 17 years ago. And it's a ring from Wharton where I got my MBA. I went to UT Austin, and it's all these dots in this cluster, and then one dot that's way over to the right, away from the crowd. And my mom was always, "You were like that dot."
I love that. I love that.
So I wear it every day to remember her.
Yeah. So even through the doubt, you were just like able to push through.
Well, I definitely had dark moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I had some moments where it was really, really dark. But I had faith that I was in my soul alignment, that I was living my purpose.
Yeah.
Before
this is before you started to do that kind of like inner work on your.
Yeah.
Like you just like something.
I had
right.
Yeah, I've had experiences starting when I was very young where I've had voices talking to me, where I've had deep experiences with God, before I ever did psychedelics. Yeah. Or studied Vedanta. So I've always known that I've had a guardian angel of sorts, looking out for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, feeling that presence of God and in different moments has been life-changing.
Here's maybe a question for you. A couple of years ago, maybe a little more than a couple of years ago, I'll step back and say I've always felt like I've had really good intuition, which is another way to say some of the things you're saying. You just feel it and you just kind of know you're right.
Yep.
And then at some point, I started doubting my intuition. Like I had been more and more successful. It wasn't that, it was something else for some reason, or I was rationalizing it. And a few years ago, I started to have this debate with myself, which is where is the line between intuition and rationalizing, and how do I keep myself personally on the side of intuition? Because when I did that, I was always right, and when I rationalized, I was often not. And it couldn't be anything from business decisions to emotion, family decisions, financial. Didn't really matter what it was, but like, it sounds to me like that never came, it didn't come into play a lot, or if it did, you were able to really clearly delineate between the two. If you buy into that idea that those are.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I've made doozy of mistakes in my life. I mean, I've hired executives that absolutely have not worked out because I tried to rationalize their background and ignored my gut instinct telling me that I should not hire.
This is exactly what.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, your ego can outsmart your intuition. I mean, one of the things I learned from Byron Reese is that the second most neurons in your body are in your stomach. You do think with your whole body. It's not just with your brain. And, I believe our brains receive consciousness. So that's a shout out to Mark Gober on episode 2. Like his books have really moved me a lot. And we're now having all types of books come out about non-local consciousness and consciousness as being fundamental. But whenever I have second guessed my gut instinct, which is another way of saying, your soul, oh my gosh, those have been the biggest mistakes of my career for sure. And I have certainly had many times where I've outsmarted myself. My ego has outsmarted myself. Like, what do you really know? Like, I can remember at age 25 or 26 when I started Core Metrics, there were people I hired that I felt like it was the wrong decision in my gut, but I rationalized it because there was so much more experience in me. And I'm like, you're 26, what do you really know? And, it created great damage in the company. And when I finally like came back to my gut and made the right decision and moved on, the company was liberated from that and could really fly.
Yeah.
And you can do amazing damage when you don't listen to that.
Yeah. I, I'll loop us right back to Techstars. That is one of the other lessons that I think I learned, which is, it's so beautiful. Just because someone looks like perfect on paper does not make them the right fit.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See
Yeah, and
that
also,
over and over, yeah.
just to clarify it, the thing that I've never let overwhelm me is the purpose of why I was born. Like I have always practiced that to create a better world with technology. That I've never second guessed.
Yeah.
I've definitely second guessed methodologies of building companies and hiring people, et cetera. And that's why I wrote the Entrepreneur's Essentials. That's why I wrote my first
Well, I
book.
think it shows in like your track record of the kinds of businesses that you've even created, right?
Yeah.
You're literally helping businesses reshape how they do business in a way that has been transformative.
Yeah. Yeah, so coming back to Techstars, what were some of the companies that really stand out for you? I mean, you had such a long time there.
Yeah.
So if you could name three, I know it's unfair to ask you.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But now you're not the CEO of Techstars.
Yeah,
It's like more in Austin, so
Yeah.
you can kind of be a little bit more free.
Yeah, well, and there's lots of things to it, but I would say that there's more than three, but the three that I'll call out, I think Helper Bees, which I think Helper Bees.
I do.
Yeah, they're here. They're local in Austin.
Yeah.
I'm
not an investor in it, but I do think they're great.
Yeah, I think that was a really, there's a learning in here too for me that I tried to find as much as possible, which is a really, really mission driven, and industry expert trying to do something that was going to be transformative and thought he knew how and held on very loosely to the how, and very tightly to the what. And it took a while, like a good business does. And now, I think they're 8 or 9, maybe even approaching 10 years later, probably close to 10 years later. They are a phenomenal business making a tremendous, tremendous impact with our elderly population. And so I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah.
I've stayed very close with that CEO.
I do think they're awesome. And I want to be clear that if I was ever asked to invest, I don't remember it. So if I ever was asked, maybe I would have said yes, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to act like I passed on the business because that's not the recollection.
No, I mean, it was at that time, especially.
I have nothing but respect.
Yeah, at that time especially, I feel like at any given moment there were 500 businesses in Austin raising money. It was hard to find the right one.
For sure. Yeah.
So that was one. Another one that I really love and is a little younger, quite a bit younger, is they're called Skiptown now. They were called Skipper when they came in, and there's a couple of things I love this one. Transforming the world, I don't know, but what I loved about it was the passion that this founder brought to what she was building and the way that she did it, and kind of similarly holding on to the what very strongly, but the how very loosely. And if you Skiptown, I don't think we don't have one in Austin yet, but they're essentially like locations for pet owners to go and socialize with their pets.
That's fun.
It's fun, and the thing that I love about it was less. I mean, the business is cool. What I loved about that, and what I look back on that with such like positive memories, is how she approached it, how she grew, how the business grew, how when she opened up her first facility in May of 2020, and it was successful. That was the heart of people not going places in public, and in Charlotte, which was a place that people didn't go in public.
Wow.
And her ability to figure out how to still make that work and grow it, and watching her and being a part of that for a long time. And I'm not any longer.
Well, she was forged in the most difficult fires of that period.
Yeah.
To make it work in that environment, you can make it work in any environment.
Exactly, right? And like being really forced to figure out like basic things that a company of her age often isn't forced to think about. How do the economics work so I can live another day? And I know you probably see this all the time too. People take for granted that that is actually in the early days, like your whole goal is to make it as long as possible until you can control that destiny as much as possible. And in those early days when you're not controlling very much,
Yeah.
her ability to figure out how to do that and to be alongside of her is like a memory that I will have forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The third one I'm going to name is a little controversial, and I'm happy to name a fourth if you want to.
Sure. You can name a fourth. I don't have hard rules here.
My favorite one, which was not a successful business in the end, was Scale Factor. And I don't know if you remember that or even remember the name.
I do remember the name. I'm trying to think what they did. I was not an
Yeah,
investor.
yeah.
I
don't. Yeah, I know you. I'm pretty sure you weren't. Because I was really close, and I had so many learnings in this one, and this one really, it grew me up in a lot of ways that I didn't realize I needed to grow up, and it also helped the future me carve out and see where do I actually want to be spending my professional time because of how this went down. And so while the business wasn't successful in January of 2020, we had raised $110 million and had $55 or $60 million in the bank.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened.
Yes, I do remember.
And then some cold feet happened.
Yeah.
And
I want to say it was very highly valued, right?
Yeah. And lots of people pointed lots of fingers, and I know the real story and what actually happened. And that business was forced to shut down because of a couple of decisions that were not made by the CEO. And it's an unfortunate thing because that is a business that should exist. And what they were essentially automating the entire accounting stack.
Yeah.
Which is
okay. Yeah. That's why I read about it, because it's very kind of high profile.
Yeah.
Quote unquote failure, but it sounds like a lot of lessons learned with it.
Yeah, for me, lots of personal lessons learned, and not just like personal lessons in how do I approach boards, how do I approach business, how do I think about supporting CEOs, and then personally, it's like those moments. I don't know if you ever had you flip the coin, but you're like, okay, which side do I actually want it to land on, heads or tails, to make a decision? It was the clarifying moments on what was important to me in that moment. And I'll just say it, like, it wasn't about the money. It was about how do we build something that is meaningful, and why are we walking away from something that we all know can be there, and seeing that, like, well, for some that wasn't the ultimate goal for them. So again, while it wasn't a successful business for me, it probably the most memorable experience that I had of all of them.
Are you still close with their CEO and like helping?
Kurt and I are stayed really, really close. In fact,
because it's very important in a situation like that. You want the CEO to dust off and get out.
Yeah, and one of the things I said to him then, which was like, look, the internet, this is my fault now, but the internet is not going to remember in a month from now, especially with COVID happening. Like it doesn't matter. Just like, let it go, and like, we'll do it again. He's doing fantastic now. He has a really great fractional CFO business, and I just brought him into a company I'm on the board in New York, and he's already transforming that company.
Cool.
Yeah, Kurt's doing fantastic here.
Do you want to cover the fourth?
Yeah, I have to think of a fourth. Let's see.
It's kind of hard because it's almost in a way I'm asking you to pick the favorite children, but
yeah,
but I know that you really manifested a lot of love there. So we should say that I'm asking you kind of an unfair question. I know that you helped a lot of people there.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get a frame for some of the ones that really, pop out, because you have this time to reflect on this long journey.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I would say, like, I'm not necessarily picking my favorites. I'm trying to pick the ones where I feel like it left a footprint on me. Which like, I wouldn't say Scale Factor was my favorite.
Right.
Maybe not my favorite, but it left an imprint on me.
Right. All right. Well, so let's not cover a fourth. Let's not cover a fourth, because we could go on and on and on. I mean, how many total companies do you think? Well, how many total companies came through Techstars during the time where you were the CEO?
So I was managing director.
Yeah, managing. I looked at you.
Yeah, CEO of the local.
Sorry. Yeah. Local.
Yeah, David hears that, he might get mad at me, but
right.
I invested in 104, I think, through the accelerator, and then there was another 31 that Jason did.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of companies.
Yeah, and then for anybody who's listening, Techstars, when I left, shortly after I left, they decided to pause the Austin Techstars. we are talking about bringing it back in a different way, and I wouldn't
Mhm.
run it again. I'm past that point in my life.
All right.
But we're talking, whole things happened at Techstars. They reduced their their international footprint. Now they're looking to expand their national footprint again.
Mhm.
And maybe we will bring it back sometime in the next few years.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So let's talk about what you're doing now. Tell me what you're up to
Yeah.
now, and when you reached out on Love Conquers Fear, it really seems like you're in your soul alignment
Yeah.
purpose now.
Yeah. I'll rewind about 6 or so years, and I had been looking for a CEO coach for a few years, and I really thought that's what would help me and I'm sure it would have helped me continue to get better as a business person.
Mhm.
And I went through a few, and I didn't really find anyone I was connecting with. And then I got a recommendation from someone, this woman, Sarah Gates, and said, she's really good, and she's been a founder a couple of times, and she's taken companies public, and she's been, CEO a bunch of times, and
Mhm.
she really understands. And I connected with her. And then and I met with her, and I didn't go to her website or anything. I just took it was from someone I trusted. I took the recommendation at face value. I connected with Sarah, and now we're 6 or so years later. We still work together.
Mhm.
Turns out Sarah is not really a CEO coach. It's a little bit of what she does, but she's a life coach, and she's very spiritual, and she's been to seminary, and she has studied every religion, and she's studied up and down. And so while her professional history is exactly what I said, she hit a moment in her life where she said, this isn't what I want in a life anymore, and what do I want? And so she became a life coach.
Mhm.
So I have had a life coach for the last 6 years. I just didn't know it.
That's cool.
And she has really, I would say, when she has made this clear to me, I have always been a spiritual person. I've always been on this path. And in the way that I consume things, I am more kinesthetic in my learning.
Mhm.
So if I open up a book to read it, I might have to read it 3 times to get the message.
Mhm.
Maybe I have some challenges with learning that I have never diagnosed. I don't think about it. Just that's the way I am. But
Mhm.
I'm very kinesthetic in my learning. And so through our talking, that was my version of being kinesthetic, is I would hear things, and I'd be able to try them and do them and think about them in a different way.
Mhm.
And she really helped me understand vocabulary differently, and thinking about my own thoughts and my own feelings in a I don't want to say in a deeper way, but helping me identify the things that I didn't have names for
Mhm.
before. Things like the uncomfortableness of having an interaction with someone and having a reaction to that person, and knowing it actually had more to do with me than them, but
Mhm.
not knowing how to reconcile that feeling, and that feeling alone making me uncomfortable and either defensive or aggressive or
Right.
something, helping me understand, oh, actually, maybe what I'm doing is I'm looking at a mirror and I'm seeing the things in myself. And so
Yep.
helping me to start to be able to identify how to see the things that I had no words for, that were not the right words for.
Yeah. That's always very humbling. Trust me,
Oh
I've
my
been there.
gosh. Yeah. It's also amazing, because I'm like, wow, yeah, that thing, that trait that is so frustrating to me, that is me.
Mhm.
How now do I like that about myself or not? And if I like it about myself, how do I interact with this person differently? If I don't like that about myself, how do I interact with myself differently?
Mhm. One of the I can't remember the name of this book right now, because I haven't read it in a long time. This was about a couple of years ago. Um, but it taught me this principle of Buddhism, and it's that every night when you go to sleep, and you have your dreams and you wake up born again, and you can choose what you want to take with you from the past and say, I'm going to now be this version of Brett
Mhm.
with all these things that I liked, and you can choose what you want to leave behind.
Mhm.
And it's a beautiful way to think about how to live. And it's counterintuitive, because the counterintuitive aspect of that is we have a very strong consistency bias, because we come from a long, long history of scarcity.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the ways I've started framing this recently is that, Homo sapiens have been around for around 300,000 years. 99.9% of that time, we have not had electricity. Okay, so we're already in the 0.1% of all Homo
Yeah.
sapiens ever to live, because we live with the abundance we have now
Yeah.
through electricity. And so that means that our amygdala is like very well developed. And during that time of immense scarcity, there were so many times where we had to act with extreme consistency. But to act with extreme consistency means it can be a real prison. Like, for example, let's say you're really wronged as a child and you're carrying around this anger
Yeah.
because of it. Like, you know, I could be that person, right? I could be like, I want to get back at all those people that, you know, were picking on me as a kid. And anger is very consuming. Like, you know, it's like a fire that will consume you. Or you can just release it, you know, and one book which helped me a lot on that is called The Untethered Soul by
I love that
Michael
book.
Singer.
Yeah.
Amazing book. I'm
Transformative.
love that one too. Because you can feel it and then just release it.
Yeah.
And that Buddhist principle is such a light way to live, because you don't have to take your anger from the past, and you don't have to take your bad habits from the past. You can just live free, you know?
Yeah.
So I know you've done a lot of this inner work. I mean, have psychedelics been a tool for you too?
Yeah. So I played around with psychedelics when I was young in my early 20s, and I do actually, reflecting back, it had some impacts on me that I'm recognizing now, but I didn't do it for that reason.
Right.
In fact, and at the time I was like, this was fun, but I don't need to unlock anything here. Like,
Right.
go on.
Yeah.
And then
Very different, by the way, if you do it and you're not wearing a mask and you're not listening to music, where you have an inner journey. If it's more of an external journey, that's a totally different modality. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And then in the more recent, like, I'd say 3 or 4 years, probably 3 years, um, and reading a little bit and hearing some stories and thinking about it differently, which was, it's actually can be a really useful tool, and then maybe there's even a better word than tool. I did and continue to do a lot of experimenting, and it's usually it's self-guided experimentation, and it's always been self-guided actually, and maybe at some point that will change, but and I'll try something different. But I've used it as a way. At first, what I did was say, what is this? Like, how will I respond to this differently if I approach it differently? And some of that differently was just dose size. When I was young, the idea was take as much as you humanly can, because you're supposed to be cool and tough. And as an adult, you realize, no, actually, there's like a right sized amount that will help you find the channels and be able to understand the channels. Maybe is a way that it hits for me. So finding what that was, and a cadence through a process when I was working on things, and sometimes those things are spiritual or emotional, and sometimes those things are physical. And I've also used them for my guitar playing, and say I'm on a path to learn something I've never learned before, and I know that it's been, proven that psychedelics, it rewires your pathways, and so I've used it for lots of things, and for me, like, guitar is a form of emotional expression, so there really is very much a tie in there, but particularly around, and what I'll share is, like, when I was leaving Techstars, I was in a different mental state than I have been in the last couple of years, for lots and lots of reasons. I was really, really tired. I was really worn thin. And I just wasn't in the greatest mental state. And that was around the time, and as I started to come out of that. So I will say that I didn't necessarily use psychedelics to come out of that mental state. As I was coming out and thinking about areas where I felt this was an area where I want to lean into, I would do that. And so I would, basically, I would go on, like, big thinking journeys, and they would be fueled by a little bit of microdosing, and the pattern would sometimes, it would almost never be every day, but it'd be like every other day for a week, and then step back for a while, 3 or 4 weeks, and every other day for a week, and step back for a while. And I watched the patterns. I think, some of it might just be you do something enough and the patterns change, but, like, the note for me that something different was going on is that I felt different and I feel different. I approach life completely differently now. At least I feel like I do. A lot of the anger that I didn't even know I had that was fueling things has been mostly released. Probably not all, but mostly released. And it was released because I was conscious that here is my motivation is being driven by X, anger or fear. I want my motivation to be joy. I want my motivation to be excitement of what the future could be. And I feel that now as I approach things like the surgery I'm having next week, where I'm like, I'm actually kind of excited. Like, what a cool thing that I'm going to have a drill in my head and that I'm going to come out of that a different person. And that is really cool. And how neat is it that I get to experience that in this life? I don't know that I could have approached that 4 years ago. And I do attribute some of that to psychedelics.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And in terms of your understanding about both yourself and it sounds like the way I would summarize that is that it's been both a creativity enhancer, but also a deprogrammer. Is that fair to say?
I would say a deprogrammer and a programmer versus a creativity enhancer. I don't think it enhances my creativity.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about it, I'm actually thinking of like, I use it for technical things. Like I want to learn how to play something with my fingers that I've never done before. And it's really, really hard. Can I help accelerate the pattern, literally the technicalness of it? But I don't think I've ever actually had a problem with the creative side. I mean, sometimes you find yourself dry, but I don't know that maybe it has, but I don't think it's ever impacted my creativity. I find my most creative moments are when I'm like dead sober, and in the middle of doing something else in the most inopportune times.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And in terms of your understanding of this reality we're in, what did it teach you about that?
So I think this reality that we're in is probably, an infinite number of realities happening simultaneously, and that we have a choice of which one we want to be in at any given time, and an unconscious choice, not a conscious choice. And so you can think, oh, I don't want to be in this moment right now. Well, you're in this moment, that you're there consciously, but like subconsciously, we can be in anyone at any given time, and using them can help guide us to the realities that we hope to live and the perspectives that we hope to have.
This is getting very quantum physics very quickly.
Yeah, and I've never studied quantum physics, by the way, but going somewhere, I'm sure you're familiar, or maybe you're familiar with retrocausality. Yeah, I'm fascinated by retrocausality. I have a business that's named RetroCause for that exact reason. And I love the idea that we can think something that is in the future and now shape the past and the present by getting there.
It's very, very Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah. So I believe that. Like I say that like the word, I don't know, I don't have the right language to say it with enough inflection that I really, really believe that to be true, which makes this moment, this reality that we're in, both really, really fun and exciting and unimportant at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would summarize all the books I've read on quantum physics and Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, where he teaches you how to meditate, and the workshops he does where he calls God the great intelligence of the quantum field, essentially is a way to distill quantum physics is it's all a probability wave and we manifest the future that we want. That's a very good way to distill it. And that, Mark Gober would say we only understand what 4% of the universe is made of. We call that matter. 96% we call dark energy and dark matter. And the more we understand about quantum physics, the weirder it gets. And my personal thesis on consciousness being fundamental is it exists in the quantum realm, and that somehow we're plugging into that quantum realm. And we're all, if you go to the quantum level, everything is light and energy. This is mostly empty space. Like we're mostly empty space. But yet here we are, constantly with our cells rebuilding, our brain cells rebuilding, but there's still this sense of self. And
well, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right?
Exactly. Right.
but this body won't exist at some point.
That's right. That's right. And so I deeply believe in reincarnation at this point.
Same.
I mean, I would say that actually, to the greatest extent that I could know that reincarnation is real, I believe it's real.
Yeah.
I've seen it in journeys as well. And I've read, and I've seen it in other people's journeys. I mean, I've seen them actually relive past lives. And I know that that's extremely real, and it actually helps me understand it better.
There's a book that I read that you may have read called, I think it's called The Surrender Experiment.
I haven't read it, but that is Michael Singer as well. I own it, but this is one I haven't yet read. But it has been mentioned to me many times, so this is probably the time where I should actually read it.
Yeah. I like.
Tell me about it, because I love Michael Singer.
I would. So I actually might be thinking of a different book. It might not be the Michael Singer book. I'm not remembering the name of. But the book that I'm thinking of is, it talks about, it's not the Surrender Experiment. I'll get the name for you and tell you. But it's a psychiatrist who didn't believe in past lives or other
Many lives, many masters.
Thank you. That's it.
I've covered it. I've covered it several times on this podcast. It's Dr. Brian Weiss.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Just the So
I've covered it, but they're not going to remember it.
Right. So the psychiatrist did not believe in any of this, and had an interesting patient, and started to do hypnosis. And he was a hypnotist, and he started to do hypnotic therapy with this patient. And the patient would start doing things like speaking languages that they had never had any experience with, and talking about places that they had never been. And the conclusion of the psychiatrist in the book is that actually and there were experiences where sometimes through hypnosis, the woman would come as a man or a child, or would come as something from a past experience. And then sometimes there would be these other beings that were
more in between.
The in between, exactly.
They're helping guide.
It's that in between is so interesting
to
me. I can't wait to be in that in between. I hope
I
get fortunate enough to end up there one day.
You will. We'll all end up.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, our souls have this knowledge already.
Right.
Yeah.
So and just him coming to that conclusion and reading this, and taking at face value that he truly didn't believe this beforehand, and he was convinced through this process, was, I would say, for me, I think in a lot of ways it was kind of like what I was saying about my coach. Like, these are things that I didn't know how to articulate, that I believed, but I didn't know how to formulate compound thoughts around yet. And then I see it come to life, and I'm like, this is the thing that I have, this feeling that I have, which again sort of leads back to, like, why am I here? To help other people be great.
Yeah. Well, I have a really good book suggestion for you. So if you love Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, you will absolutely love Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. Because Many Lives, Many Masters is a case study of one individual. Journey of Souls is the meta case study of over 40 individuals, where he's looking for the commonality in the reincarnation process to explain it as best as he can. And it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating.
Many journeys.
It's called Journey of Souls.
Journey of Souls.
Yeah,
okay.
By Dr. Michael Newton. And it was one of those books that was recommended to me early on in what I'm calling my soul quest, which really started last year in December in Kerala, India. It started in part reading or watching the documentary Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds, which, if you haven't seen,
I haven't seen it.
That's a fantastic one. You can just get it for free on YouTube. Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds, and it really ties together science and spirituality in one mechanism, in such a beautiful way. Really great cinematography. But essentially, Journey of Souls, I had kind of put up there as like, maybe this is one I'll read later. And I was on a Zoom with the CEO of a couple of 1,000-person company that he had taken public. And he's like, have you ever read Journey of Souls? And I felt the energy in my body shift, and it just lit up. And I said, I haven't, but you're now the fourth person to recommend it to me. And I know now, with the level of reading I've done, like giving myself the foundation, that now is the right
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
because I could just feel it. Like, I'm sure you can feel that energy in your body where, either you get the goosebumps or you just light up and you know that, okay, now it's the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you'll love that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
I
fantastic.
had that experience with a book that you may have read, and if you haven't, I can highly recommend it, called No Boundary by Ken Wilber.
I like Ken Wilber. I haven't read that book.
Yeah, I've dabbled in other Ken Wilber, and I have a harder time getting through it. And this
Mhm.
one, I read it, closed the cover, and immediately reread it. And I'm about to, that was a year and a half ago, and I'm about to reread it again. It was
Okay,
one
cool.
that touches me like that. But it was the same experience where, like,
Yeah.
it had been sitting on my desk. It was actually gifted to me by my coach.
Yeah.
And I was like, she never does this, and it's a big book, and she knows I'm a kinesthetic learner. Been sitting on my desk, like, someday I'm going to crack it. Someday I'm going to crack it. And then,
Yeah.
like, in a very short amount of time, 3 other people recommended it to me. I was like, all right, it's time to
It's
crack
time.
it.
Yeah. Cool. What did you learn from it? How
I
would you
think,
kind of summarize it?
it's, I would say it encompasses all of what we're talking about. I mean, early on, I'm going to get the levels wrong, but he kind of just describes about 3 levels and descending into the levels. And the dissension is not my mind goes, dissension is not good, maybe because business is up and to the right, but the dissension is good, which is basically you're freeing yourself from other things. And it talks, and it's almost like a sort of like a playbook in a way of how to descend yourself where you can let go. And this is, to me, the biggest thing in the book. How do you let go of everything so that there are no boundaries
Mhm.
in the life that you live or that you're not living? And the first time I read it, I took it and read it more literally. And I think it was probably like 4 or 5 months out of Techstars. And I read it much more literally, which was, how do I come to a situation where there seemingly is a boundary, and it's probably a mental boundary, not a physical boundary. And how do I not break through the boundary, but see that the boundary never existed to begin with, and that there is something that in my life that created the ability for there to be a boundary to begin with. And then the second time I read it through, it hit me on a much deeper spiritual level, which was getting an understanding of all of the things inside me that have formed or not formed, that came from all of the different places I've ever been. And by that, I don't mean in this particular 52-year of existence, but all of the existences that I've ever had, and how they're all sort of inside, and how they've created this idea of what life is here in this moment, and how to break through that. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I'll dive into that. So how do you think about this moment? I mean, you've been a longtime technologist and entrepreneur. You've coached so many entrepreneurs. The reason I started this is, again, to hope that I can help humanity have this heart shift, that if we continue to play this zero-sum, fear-based scarcity mindset, which is it's a tall order. I'm basically saying we have to transcend the amygdala. But technology is a great forcing function. We are already living with abundance today that would be unimaginable 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago. I mean, we would appear like gods to people 1,000 years ago. They would be like, I don't understand. There's this thing called the grocery store that you go to, and they have, like, dozens of different types of blueberries you can choose from. Like, what is even a blueberry? And but we're in this moment where we're in the exponential of exponential curves. And the way I look at this moment and the message I received is that this is God's final exam for humanity. It's God working through us to force us to choose to allow love to conquer fear. God loves us all and wants us to make it to this age of abundance for everyone, and realize that we're 99.9% genetically the same all over the world, and that we can transcend this moment. But it's one of those moments where it's with great power comes great responsibility. And I am 95% certain that we make it. And I've laid that out on this podcast many times, that I really think we're going to make it. I really think when push comes to shove, we will make the right decision. We'll choose that future of abundance for all versus, oppression, destruction, all the horrible things that we've done in the past. But the reality is we mostly practice acts of beauty and love every day.
Mm-hmm.
That is the actual reality. And we all come from a world of light and love.
Yeah.
Like that's where our souls are.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think about this moment? Like what is your assessment on whether or not we make it to this age of
Yeah.
abundance versus, destroy ourselves?
Yeah. Um, I think we will make it. I do. And I don't know that it will be in the way that we might be able to conceive it now, because I think there is so much changing.
Yep.
And I think kind of going to a lot of our other conversations, like we can only conceive of so much. So if I look out, 50 years or 500 years, I think there'll be a version of us that exists. But I don't know what it will look like, and that I don't even.
Oh my
have,
gosh,
like,
500 years. Now you're way beyond my pay grade.
but
500 years, it's like, I mean, just 50 years.
Yeah, but yeah.
With how exponential the
This
curve
and this is sort of like, this is on my mind every single day, and it was again something that my coach said to me, and it's one of the reasons why I got this butterfly tattoo, is that I think every one of us has a responsibility to just be kind and show an act of love to a random person every day. And I'm not perfect, but I try really, really hard to do both of those things, to be kind to everyone, and to do one kind thing or an act of love for a random person that doesn't know who I am. They may never know who I am. They may not even know it was from me, every single day.
Yeah.
And I think that if doesn't even have to be everybody, but I'll start with this. By me doing that, I have immediately changed the world. Because that one person has now experienced something they wouldn't have experienced, and now what they do with that could be positive change or a negative change. But I've now changed. If enough people can start to just do that, just show up and not be angry, and show love in places they didn't before, I do think we will have a ripple. We have the potential for there to be a ripple effect that will dominate the hate and anger that we are.
Well, if 100% of humanity did that, there would be no problems.
Zero.
I mean, we would make it with 100% certainty.
Yeah.
And, one of the greatest books I read recently on that was John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, recommended Love is Letting Go of Fear, which is by Jerry Jampolsky. Amazing, amazing book. Highly, highly recommended. It's a derivative of this book called A Course in Miracles, and it's like a distillation of it. And it takes you through exercises to go through every day. Like, for example, let's say that you walk into a supermarket, since we were talking about supermarkets earlier, and the person behind the counter is just super rude to you, right? Now, maybe the natural reaction in the moment would be to act back with rudeness, because you'd be like so offended, and maybe go home and tell your wife, like, I can't believe, how rude they are at the grocery store, etc. Another reaction is to react with a lot of empathy and really think about, like, wow, did their mother just pass away? Or like, what's going on here? Or maybe their boss was just super mean to them. Maybe the customer right before, and just ask them, not in a condescending way, but like in a really loving way, like, hey, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? And you might find a completely different reaction where they're like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just having a horrible time. And then you're having a whole different conversation with them. And that conversation could literally transform not just that day for them and all the people they're going to interact with, but could transform their entire career.
Yeah.
It could be the conversation they've been waiting to have with people.
Yeah. I believe that so much wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it has to be, I hope it doesn't have to be 100%, because I don't know that that's will happen. But if a large percentage of people stop being afraid. Stop being afraid of loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the way I think about this moment is that once we're able to see this abundance for everyone through this acceleration of technology, that it's a forcing function to force us to be like, wait, hold on, now we have so much abundance. Like, what are we really going to fight about?
Yeah.
Like if you think about the great wars, they have tended to be about land and conquering and, trying to oppress.
Yeah.
But if technology delivers this unprecedented abundance, then why choose to fight? Do you think about that?
I, yeah, I do. What I'm unsure of, and I try to find optimism for, is, and it goes to something you said earlier, like we've been programmed for, 99% of our existence.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think about how hard it is to deprogram myself from habits that I formed as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the way that I think about this is like, what are the ways in which the world, people with the deepest amount of fear get thrown for a loop in a positive way, in the best way possible, so that they can look at the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same breath, I worry sometimes, as much as I hate to do that, um, that some of these habits are just so deep that everyone is ready, especially right now, like so ready to just be thrown on their heels and put up their fists or verbal fists or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, because everyone is feeling like their personal whatever is being attacked. I mean, really, that part of it scares me, and I and it's part of why, it's a big reason why I try not to do that. I mean, I'm certainly not perfect in that, but I try
Right.
really hard, because so many people are showing up that way. To your example is such a great one, is whenever I encounter, and I would say whenever I encounter someone like that, I try never to match that energy. This is a personal thing, right? I try to not match that energy. Whether I would go so far as to say, "Hey, are you okay?" Maybe in a moment I would, or maybe and I wouldn't. But what I won't do is match the anger, or the frustration, or the whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And you probably won't hold on to that.
and I won't
Yeah.
I won't hold, right. I won't on.
Delete.
That energy is gone. And I also do believe that, and just recently I've had some examples of this that like punch me in the face that this is true, that the energy we bring to a situation is felt by everyone around us. So if I can bring really great energy into a situation, I'm automatically shifting the energy in the room, right? Right. If the energy is here and here, like
Mm-hmm.
it's here instead of here and here, now it's still down here.
Right.
Um, I'll just give you like a weird experience, but like I had this like little, like it was right after I found out about the surgery. Like I had a couple of days where I was just like, I felt icky. Like, I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, it took me a little while, and this had never happened to me before, and it happened to me, and then immediately stopped happening to me, which is, like 2 times in a row, a day apart, I saw a dog, and I would kneel down to pet the dog, and I'm not like, I understand how you're supposed to like approach a dog the first time. You want to get on their level. You don't want to threaten them. Like I always close fists down low so they can't bite. And 2 times I had dogs step away from me, and
Mm.
like that doesn't happen to
Hmm.
me. And one of those dogs I encountered like a couple of days later when I was feeling back to myself, and I did the exact same thing. It came and jumped right on me.
I can feel
Yeah,
your energy.
and it was just like,
Yeah.
it was just, so that taking that concept and saying, okay, how can I bring energy, good energy everywhere I go, great energy wherever I go. How can that butterfly effect help, you know, anyone else that I encounter to bring a similar type of raised energy to wherever they are. So hopefully what we'll start to get is that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So outside of your individual
Mm.
actions, which I love,
Yeah.
this was one of Byron Reese's main points in episode 12 of the podcast. He actually ends his book, We Are Agora, with this, that if you just practice everyday acts of kindness, that is all that is required for us to make it. What are you doing in terms of your career now to try to make sure we make it?
Yeah. There's one thing that I am explicitly doing, and then there's another thing that I continue to circle around that I have a feeling I will end up also doing. The thing that I'm explicitly doing is just how I coach. So I'm a CEO coach. I work with a handful of CEOs. I think I've in total 8 or 9 right now, and they're coming to me for help in how to be a better leader and how to evolve along as their business evolves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the approach I'm bringing to them. And again, thinking about, maybe this is not answering your question exactly, but like the butterfly effect, I'm having impact on one who's now having an impact on hundreds or thousands of people, who's having an impact on tens of thousands of people.
Right.
So
I think that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And what area you're focused on? Are you focused on startups? Are you focused on bigger companies? What is
yeah,
how do you find the people?
yeah, it's been entirely referral based to this point, which I feel really fortunate about. I typically work with first and second time founders who are in the Series A to Series C range, and I love the early stage stuff. I also did it for a really long time, and I'm having some fun.
Yeah.
A little.
And you're not joining their board, you're just their coach, right?
A couple times I have.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do, but not typically.
Yeah. 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 I mean, Deborah and I are investors in 149 startups now. It's kind of crazy. We've been doing it for 15 years. And one of the things I love not being on their board is because I'm only on one board of directors outside of a nonprofit that I co-founded, is that I can just kick back with them and they can tell me anything because I'm not responsible for their comp. I can't fire them. And they can tell me like, here's stuff going on the board that's driving me crazy, or here's a big opportunity. I don't know if we should pursue this. I don't know if I should bring it to the board.
You're nailing exactly why I love the CEO coaching work that I do, because I am the person they come to first, before their co-founder, before their board members, for everything. Awesome. We talk about anything and everything, and nothing's off the plate because they're having problems with a child or with their spouse, or with their, they're sad because their, parent just passed away. This all impacts the business, and it's like, how do I show up when I'm grieving? How do I show up when I'm angry? How do I do these things? And so they do come to me with all of that, and it's exactly for the reason you say. It's why, we talked about this a little bit before, but when I thought about what do I want to do next, I wanted to do all the things that I love and try to do as few of the things I don't love. That's the thing that I love.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's a great service to people, and some of the most amazing conversations about startups have happened in this home, out on the balcony, where we're talking about something that is really a huge challenge that could absolutely take the business. And sometimes it's just a huge opportunity, an opportunity to sell the company, an opportunity to acquire another company, an opportunity to really step on the gas and end up raising a lot of money.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say about that is, I'm on about a half a dozen boards now, and I actually really, really love the board work, and it's different. One of the things that I love about the board work is I'm always the independent. And I have a lot of experience as an operator. I have a lot of experience as an early stage investor, and I bring this perspective of, what's best for everybody, which is really ultimately the job of the board, of all the board members. But it's, investor board members are inherently conflicted because they also have fiduciary to their LPs. Being able to be in that room with the experience that I have, and by experience I mean the years, but I don't mean the years. I mean literally the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of data points of experience, of board experience or company experience or growth experience or failing experience or whatever it might be. Getting to bring that into the boardroom, particularly during hard conversations, and some hard conversations are really positive conversations, but they're still hard. How do you make what decision? I think it's also valuable, but for me, ridiculously fun to be able to bring that perspective in. And to your point before was like, I'm not the investor in this company. And yes, while I might have some outcome lying on it, like that's not my role here. My role is like, I'm supposed to look out for everybody, and I get to do that really purely, and it's pure joy for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's such a beautiful service. And I heard you're playing music again, too. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah. How did you get back into it?
I originally got back into it in 2017 and 18. I will kind of thank Techstars for this. They're headquartered in Boulder.
Yeah.
And one of the employees of Techstars, Nicole Glaros, her husband is a musician, and we all went to Nicole's house one night after some meeting or whatever. A bunch of us did. Jason Seitz was there too, a few other people, and we went down to their basement and we played music. And I hadn't touched a guitar in probably 20, 25 years at that point.
Wow.
And I didn't remember a lot, but I remembered a little bit. But what happened that night, and I had this moment, and I knew Nicole's husband a little bit, but not really that well. We had met a couple of times, but I looked up at him at one point, and I had this like feeling of, it was like this warmth, heat radiating from my chest, and a smile. Like I couldn't stop smiling. I had
That's awesome.
tears running down my
Wow.
face, and it was just the joy of like holding this thing. I was like, this is coming back into my life. And then
Nice.
fast forward a couple of years, when COVID happened and everyone was sheltering in place, the Seats family and us sheltered in place together.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife had the bright idea of building our garage into a music studio, which she had no idea what she was saying. She
Right.
thought we would get a couple of acoustic guitars and play once in a while, but I
Right.
built a music studio. And Jason and I started inviting a couple of other people over, and for a little while we had a band called Barking Stars, and then that went its own way. But I realized in that time that this is something that had been missing from my life, and I am okay that it disappeared, because now I get to approach it as a starving artist who's not starving, who has decades of experience that I can bring to it, but I'm also bringing to it the joy of being a little kid, because I haven't done it in so long.
That's awesome.
And so that, and I play every day for 2 to 3 hours a day, sometimes much longer than that. And then about a year and a half, or I guess maybe 2 years ago, I started writing music again. About a year and a half ago, I started recording at a studio, Fifth Street Studios in Austin, with a producer, Con Davidson, and I started releasing an album in June of this year. I'm releasing every single as a single, because you've released music differently these days, but I'm halfway through releasing an album now.
That's
too.
cool.
Yeah.
What's the album called?
The album is called Middle Age No One.
Okay.
Also the title track, the album is not punk music, but this one is kind of a punk song, and it was talking about inspiration.
Yeah.
This is my favorite kind of writing, and it doesn't happen a lot, where I was sitting down one night and I wasn't meaning to do anything, and I just started playing this riff, and it was really weird and dissonant, and I'm like, this is cool.
All right.
And then I have a looper pedal, so I played the riff on a looper pedal.
It just came to you.
It just came to me. Yeah. And it was playing over and over. And then I was like, what are the chords? And then like, I just started messing around with some chords over it, and I like found these chords. I'm like, this is super, super cool. What do I do with this? And I don't usually sit down and try to write lyrics right away. Like, I'll just do that and I'll wait till I get hit with a different inspiration. But the words and the chorus part of it, like, I'm just a middle-aged no one, came to me. I'm like, ooh, this feels like something. So it's a very sarcastic song.
Yeah.
It's actually not a serious song, and I've played it live acoustically a few times. And I can see in the audience people's age by how their face looks.
Yeah.
People that are younger are in shock and feel sorry for me and older people are laughing. But the chorus is, I'm just a middle-aged no one, ain't no one Googling for me. I'm just another yellow icon fading into synchronicity. Right? It's just
Right.
a joke, but it's so fun and funny.
That's
So
awesome.
now, I put a band together around it. I have we've just started rehearsing regularly, called Future Hippies of Punk. Trying to take in lots of things. The future part is actually thinking about how technology and the world is evolving and shaping.
Yeah.
And-
I don't know why it's making me think of this, but my oldest daughter, Rachel, she was playing Sabrina Carpenter for me, and she's like, look, these lyrics for Man-Child, it's sarcastic, right? You're getting it. And I'm like, yes, Rachel, I'm very much, I'm understanding that too.
Yeah.
But it's she was the big, maybe I'm thinking of it because she was the big headliner for ACL Fest this year. But it is that whole album is very sarcastic.
Yeah,
right?
it's really good.
And it's a great narrative too of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Well, this was super fun, man. I really appreciate your heart. And any parting words, like, what's your greatest hope for humanity?
My greatest hope for humanity is that people can start finding the love in their heart, and stop being so afraid. Turn around and hug someone for no reason at all tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's my greatest hope.
Yeah,
for humanity.
if we have the ability, and we all have this ability, for love to conquer our own fear, then we can help manifest that in others, because we've done the hard work. So we can help be guides to them in doing that, whether it's CEO coaching or anything you're doing, or just being a great mom or a great dad. And then we can help collectively, humanity, to do that together. And that's the hard work. that we need to do. And the technology is just a forcing function for us to reconcile with it.
Yeah.
So that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks, bro.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I really
really
appreciate
this
it.
is really
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of Love Conquers Fear. Stay tuned. A lot of exciting guests coming on. I'm having a blast doing this, and thanks again for all of the shares. I'll tell you that just recently, someone that has watched every episode of the podcast wanted to get together with me and tell me the most amazing story about his near-death experience that I've ever heard. That's now the 10th that I've seen this year, which really just blew my mind in terms of the reality that he saw beyond, and how he saw that our actual reality, where we come from, a world of light and love, is so loving, and it changed his life forever. And so, what I'm doing and putting this out there and putting this light out there for all of you, and bringing all of this light into my own being, is really moving me. And so keep it coming. Share this with a friend if you're moved by it. There's no advertising on this. I'm just self-funding. I'm doing this to create a heart shift with humanity, in the hope that we ascend and make it. And I'm 95% certain we will, but let's get it to 100%. Thanks a lot. Team Humanity all the way. Love you all.